There's a hill I've been avoiding. Not really an epic climb or a mountain. It's just one of the larger climbs in the area, and one that featured in one of my first videos, and after struggling with it a few seasons back, it's back into my head, and ever since, it's the hill I kind of reroute around when I'm planning a ride. But that changes this summer, because at some point, not this summer maybe not next, I'm riding across the country, coast to coast, and I'm pretty sure I won't get there by rerouting around difficult things. This episode builds from the last one, where I went single speed, and it's part of a series about getting ready without really training. Whenever people say they're getting ready for something on the bike, it tends to sound serious right quickly, and maybe it should. But I think there's also a less intense way into it. Because what I'm after isn't speed, not in the way a racer chases it, no records, no medals. What I'm after is durability, the ability to keep pedaling longer, carry what I need, sleep outside, wake up, and do it again the next day. That's a different goal, and it calls for a different kind of preparation. Right. In the last video, I stripped my surly karate monkey down to a single gear, one cog, no shifters, no decisions mid-climb. Sometimes I pedal to the top, sometimes I walk. Both are fine. Part of the reason I did that, whether it was a good idea or not, was to wake a few things up. Legs, lungs, patience, get it all going again. It worked, roughly. Single speed. To me, might be one of the fastest ways to get stronger on a bike, mostly because it leaves you no other option but to pedal. What really surprised me though was how quickly the simplicity of it, pedaling, single speed, changed the actual experience of riding. Without the option to shift down or up, I had to think about momentum differently, when to carry it, when to stand, and yeah, there's a lot of standing, when to accept that this particular hill is winning today. The bike is now simpler. Going out on it is simpler. All things considered, a few stackable wins. And there's another reason the switch to single speed felt like part of getting ready. The maintenance. I'm not a bike mechanic. I'm not particularly inclined towards fixing and repairing things, but I know the importance of some basic trailside skills, a flat tire, worn brake pads, derailleur issue when you're miles from anywhere. So as part of the conversion, I learned how to swap out a cassette for a cog, remove a derailleur, and fit a new chain. Slightly outside my comfort zone, it was also honestly where I learned the most. Leaning into that, there's something quietly satisfying about understanding how a part of your bike works and being able to do something about it when it doesn't. So that's good enough for now. The mysterious world of bottom brackets can wait for another day. Today's ride, somewhere between the last of the snow and the first real mud of spring, turns out to be a good place to practice one of the key ingredients of any long ride: adaptability, and the related skill of just being comfortable with a range of uncomfortable. At this point in the trail, I'm deep inside a pine forest, and the ground has been heaved up by gnarled roots, and every step is a gamble between solid ground and a sinkhole. There are puddles all over, and they could probably stop calling them puddles because they really do stretch out and are quite deep and mysterious in some places. So it's throughout these trails now that I'm on that there are sections that are closed, and my feet are wet as I continue pedaling around, and the carefully planned course that I had plotted out before starting out, well, it stops here. And this is where long distance riding actually gets practiced, to my mind. Not the fitness part, but the other part, that adaptability. The part where something goes a bit sideways and you make a small, calm decision and carry on. Getting comfortable with mud, wet feet, a detour, a change of plan. It's not a bad day. It's really just a useful one. Because out there on a bigger ride, this kind of stuff I'm sure happens every day. And so it's better, I'd say, to practice that composure now and adaptability in a simple pine forest close to home than to meet it for the first time somewhere a little more consequential. Ultimately, adapt, improvise, or go home. Simple as that, I guess. Getting ready without training, because the moment I hear word training, I start to lose interest. So in that instance, what does it actually look like? The question I keep coming back to isn't how do I get as fit as possible, as fast as possible. In fact, it's simpler than that. What's the minimum I can do consistently that will meaningfully improve the next ride? Let me be honest. Gyms, classes, structured plans, none of it is really anything more than tolerable for me. So the approach has to work around that. Some riding, quite a bit of it actually, but not all of it long, not all of it furiously pedaling. Just frequent enough riding that the bike never really feels unfamiliar. And a lot like today's ride, I like to get out on varied terrain and conditions. Bit of paved bike path, hard packed gravel, muddy single track, bit of slushy snow thrown into the mix. As temperatures rise and the days get longer, there's the chance to pedal just a bit further, or stay out a bit later, go outside the plan a bit, and some days I'll set a loose goal, a time, a distance. Other days it's a bit more of just an amble, no structure, no metrics, just out on the bike. All of it counts. On top of the metrics, though, I've started wearing a smartwatch on most rides, mainly for navigation. It's an incredible sports watch, tracks lots of stuff, lots of data. I understand some of it, which is good. And what I pay attention to is pretty basic: heart rate, overall distance, time remaining, average speed. Enough just to stay informed without turning the ride into a data exercise. Because the moment I start chasing power numbers, watts, VO2, that's where it stops feeling like riding and starts feeling like formal training. And that's exactly where I lose interest pretty quick. So the watch, it's there, it's useful, but it stays in the background, which is exactly where I want it. Along with the riding, I also do a bit of strength work, rounds things out just enough so my back and hips aren't entirely shocked when I ask them to carry me and a loaded bike up a climb. Something like stretching or a foam roller, enough that my body lets me ease into another day of riding whatever I've put it through in the day previously. And along with all of that, walking, just staying active. Sometimes it's as simple as playing ball with my dog, an easy wander after a big day on the bike. All of it counts, it all adds up, especially when the goal is a whole season, not a single event. In fact, the biggest gains rarely come from one singular heroic effort. What works better, for me at least, is stacking all these small, repeatable things. A bit more riding, a bit more flexibility, a bit more sleep. Stick with me for a moment. There's a section coming up about gear and routes I think you'll find useful. But first, the part that nobody really makes exciting content about: food. With a fair warning, nothing I'm about to say comes with any professional endorsement. I'm not a nutritionist or a coach, just someone who's been fortunate enough, and I'm grateful for this, to keep reasonably active and healthy enough over the years to keep riding, and I picked up a few things along the way about what works for me. So your mileage, as they say, it might vary, and with that said, I'm not counting almonds into small containers, not really focusing on macros, and briefly, when I've tried all of that, none of it really stuck. It wasn't done with any real commitment or persistence. What I've started doing is asking a slightly more useful question before I eat, with a bit of intention. It's not so much, is this healthy in some abstract sense, rather, is this actually good fuel for the next climb? Some food feels like support for a long pedal up a steep grade. Other foods, well, it feels like you've put on an extra bag of flour and refined sugars and decide to carry it internally up the next hill. Which, to be clear, I'll still occasionally do, happily. Ultimately, it's just noticing what works. More meals that help, enough protein, carbs to actually pedal, water, keep hydrated, and slightly fewer decisions that future me has to pay for halfway up a climb. So if all that counts as a plan, well, that's my plan. And with all of this, here's what I'm actually going for. Rides that I feel are just a little bit easier. A body that complains a little less on day 2. Climbing that still feels like work, but not like a punishment. And room for the other stuff too. A detour, coffee somewhere unexpected. A kind of ride that starts small and becomes something memorable almost by accident. And you don't regret it later. That's the version of readiness that I'm after. Usable readiness, with just enough adaptability and durability built into it to handle really whatever the trail or the day decides to do. So here's where these episodes go from here. Now that my body is at least a baseline of durability, the next question is the bike. Specifically, what to bring, what to leave behind, and how much you actually need to spend before you're allowed to ride into the evening and sleep somewhere inconvenient. Next episode, I'll talk a bit about some of the gear that I use, really just the useful stuff, mostly what I already have, and the things worth sorting out before a bigger ride exposes the gaps. After that, I'll probably go for a shakedown ride. far enough that the bike and gear can tell me what I got wrong. And then routes. How do I plan them? How do I navigate? What kind of days do I actually want to have out there? So a few more episodes. Come along if you'd like. Pedaling the long way. I really do appreciate it. And so this isn't a training video, not in the usual sense. It's more like a dry run, without the pressure, way of telling the body, and maybe the mind too, that a bit more will be asked of each soon. Just some longer days, a little more weight, some more climbing, and a bit more uncertainty. But ultimately, and hopefully, a lot more fun in it. And if you've got your own version of getting ready for the season ahead, formal or not, I'd like to hear about it in the comments. Thanks for riding along. See you on the next one.